All right. So yeah, you were asking me about Jamaica. Yeah, it was getting to that point, Catherine, where I was in my, let's see, I'm in my last 3 months of graduate school, right?
Mhm.
And I'm studying social work. Pandemic hits, you know, a year ago, which is
So crazy.
right. But I just started to feel, I started to feel my own mental health slipping. Like it was getting real, and I couldn't figure out what to do. Like I was going through all the self-care protocols and I was going through all the things, and you and I both know how healing the water can be. Interesting relationship with water. So, I was hitting my open water swims and it still wasn't doing it. Like I was like, yeah, it
Yeah.
feels good, but it feels good maybe after a swim. Even swims started not to feel that great. I was just sitting there like, yeah, this was nice, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not doing as well as I could be, and so yeah, I started thinking like, what what do I need? Like going through that kind of like, what do you need? What's going on with you? And I recognized that maybe it was a change in environment. You know what I mean? Like you need to go somewhere else. Like you're in this routine of San Francisco, and maybe that's the thing that you need to change. So, I started looking online and like, where can Americans go? Where do I want to go? And then here I am in Jamaica, a month and a half later after.
Ugh, I feel that in my soul, what you just said. I like the mental health stuff has just been, yeah, like it's been tough. I think I'm at a point now where I'm just numb.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't, like, I'm not sad, but I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I'm completely like not feeling anything. And it's just, I think it's a state of just like, I've been emotionally drained for this entire year. Like last year, the pandemic hit and I was in Utah and Tahoe and having so much fun for like 6 weeks, quarantining by myself, skiing every day. And then
Mm-hmm.
came home, and when I came home, like anxiety attacks started happening, really scary, really bad. And then
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter and the swim out and all summer, like working with that. And then I did my swim in Monterey. And then I started dating my best friend, and then we broke up. And now it's just like, it's so much emotional. Like I'm so overwhelmed that I've shut off. And the same thing about swimming. I mean, swimming has been like my happy place since I was like 4 years old,
Yeah.
and getting in the water is like a chore now. And
Mm.
I'm committed to getting in the water every day. Like I don't care how I do it. I don't
Yeah.
even care if I swim. I just have to get myself into water.
Yep.
So it's been surfing a lot, which has actually been
Mm.
awesome. But the swimming is like not healing me in the way it used to, and
Mm.
I think that's okay, but yeah, it's tough.
It's a
It's tough.
relation. It's a relationship, similar to what you were just talking
Yeah,
about. I appreciate
yeah,
you being honest about your relationship too, because I think these are some of the things that are hard to capture. If you're just
yeah.
watching, like, you might be watching, mainstream TV, the news, whatever it is, right? I don't know how often we're talking about like how our relationships are changing and like what does it look like to have a new relationship during quarantine and uh yeah, I can't even. When you said you're like, yeah, you started dating your best friend, I'm like, whoo. Oh, okay.
I know.
But like, not to say that can't be a great, not to say it can't be a great thing, but it's changing the relationship that you've had with someone for so long, right? Like,
Right, and I think the hard part of it is it's like you're so comfortable with this person and you love them. And like in
huh?
the English language, we really only have the word love for like I love swimming. I love my best friend. I love my boyfriend, and they're all different types of love. So it's
Hmm.
hard to like manage what it is. We're fine. We're going back to being friends. But yeah, it's drain, it's an emotional, like exertion.
Yeah. Yeah. So wow, I'm just, I feel good hearing you talk about getting in the water being a chore, because that is so,
I
because that's,
know. Me
yeah,
saying that.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. All right, yeah, she's got it too. So yeah, I mean, that's part of your profession. You're a professional swimmer.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say professional because I think a lot of people do view me as professional
Yeah.
because I'm going out there setting these big goals, breaking records. I coach, I have an Instagram, I blog. So it's like it is kind of a second job,
Hmm.
but I'm not being paid to do any of this. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not a professional. I do it because I have a deep love and passion for the water, for the sport, for sharing that with people. And I think right now I'm trying to like be nice to myself and give myself a break where it's like, you know what? If I'm not feeling the water right now, that's okay. But with that said, it's a part of my identity. So my
Mhm.
identity, I'm not enjoying this part of my identity. And then it's like, what's going on?
So yeah, so what part, there's so many levels to, let's just talk about, yeah, let's start off by talking about the training aspect of open water swimming, right? Like, and what, what, before that, when I said professional, I mean, you really are, I think you have a strong knowledge base of swimming
Yeah.
and aquatics, period, right? And so you can walk into, like you were saying, you're like, oh yeah, I'm putting a little bit of a pause on swimming. I just want to get in. Oh, but now I'm going to go to surfing. Okay, yeah, surfing is different, and so yeah, I just think your approach maybe is more professional than someone who's just kind of like the leisurely. Oh, I'm going to go, hit a couple laps at the rec pool, which is nothing wrong
Yeah.
with hitting a couple laps at the rec pool. I'm not saying that, but your approach is definitely like a professional. Like,
Yeah.
you were a collegiate swimmer. this has been this is swimming has been, or aquatics, water is, it's one and the same, right? There, without it there
Mhm.
is no Catherine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, let's get back to the training, because you the training is a weird thing, right? Training's a strange beast, where you start talking about, the body, the mind, spirit, soul, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. So how's that? Yeah, how's that changed for you in the last year, in terms of motivation and, um, enthusiasm, energy? Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's okay. So let's see. So last year, 2020, I was gonna do Catalina, which was 21 miles, and that was kind of my only goal for that year. And then when I moved back, when I went back to San Francisco Bay Area where I live, quarantine's still going on, and I was like, I kind of need a goal because I think I
Mhm.
function really well when I have a goal. So that's where I set the Monterey swim, Santa Cruz to Monterey, is like I'm going to do this on top of Catalina. And training for me is, I usually, like, my years are like split into my swim season and my play season because I
Okay.
think balance is important. So like I'll swim really hard from like April until September whenever I have my swims, and then the winter and spring months is like skiing and doing other things that I enjoy doing.
Okay.
But training for Monterey, it's, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of swimming, a lot of lifting. It's mentally getting myself ready for being in shark infested waters for
Mhm.
13 hours. um,
Mhm.
and I was really motivated for that. And I think a part of it was like training for me has always been a good distraction.
Okay.
And I think that as I've gone up and down struggling with mental health things, it's like training for something is what gets me out of bed,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds dramatic, but sometimes these swims save me, depending on the season that I'm in. But it's like, I committed to the swim, so I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to go train. And we're not talking, I'm training for like 2 hours a day. We're talking 6 to 8 hour training swims on the weekend, which is a lot of time to be by yourself in your own head. But I think it's really a powerful exercise physically and mentally,
Yeah.
training for these, because it's a journey of how tough are you,
Mm-hmm.
like
Oof.
people, you can swim for 8 hours, you can swim for 10 hours, but where does your mind go at 6 hours when the wind starts to pick up, when you're exhausted? And it's addressing those demons that come up and swimming through that. And this year, I think part of the reason I'm like, I just can't wrap my mind around doing a swim is I'm just not in a place where I think I can swim past those tough moments.
Mm. Mm.
And I think that's okay. I think that's okay to be in that place right now, and to recognize it. But yeah, I mean, physically, my body's also physically a mess right now. That's a whole different thing, like shoulder, hip issues. But
Yeah.
the training is, yeah, it's intense, but it's fulfilling, and the community is really supportive.
Sure. What's the
I don't know if that answered your question.
no, absolutely. I mean, it was extremely exploratory figure. Yeah, like my question was extremely open-ended. So I think you answered it. What, like you said before, there's, various aspects to training. It's not just the physical side. But the
Mhm.
physical side is yeah, it's rough. So you were talking about
Yeah.
body aches and kind of repairing. What is the part that you find the most challenging in the physical aspect? Like, is it the lifting?
Mhm.
Maybe a certain type of swimming workout. Yeah, what is it? Resistance train? What's the thing you're like, oh my god, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. So just to lay out like what a week training plan would look like for me,
Hmm.
it'd be typically 2 days. So this is typical, like pre-COVID times. Gyms are open, pools are open.
Yep.
It'd be like 2 days lifting, which I actually really enjoy the lifting, and then sessions in the pool, 2 or 3 sessions in the pool, and then probably 5 sessions in the bay.
Okay.
Um, and as I ramp up my training, I start with maybe 10 miles a week and then
Okay.
work my way up to swimming 28 to 30 miles a week
Mm.
on top of the lifting. So I think the hard part in the training, the physical aspect of it
Yeah.
is the next session. And what I mean by
Yeah.
that is when you're training for a marathon swim, you're swimming really long distances. I'm swimming really hard in the pool. And then the weekends come, and the weekends are when we have more free time.
Yeah.
And those sessions are where I go for 4 hour swims, or I do 4 times 2.5 hour swims, or I do a
Mhm.
6 hour swim. So physically, you know, having that be at the end of my week,
Yeah.
that's where I start to feel the shoulders are sore or my hip flexors get tight, and then I get out and eat everything in sight and sleep for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the toughest physical part, but yeah,
Yeah.
my body's held up pretty well with the swimming. Like, I haven't had a lot of shoulder issues
Okay.
from it or anything too major. All the injuries I have now are from other things. Um,
Y-
but
I
yeah.
I was a little surprised to hear that you're out skiing.
Oh, I ski a lot. I love skiing.
Wow. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Now, so now, were you doing this back in college, back at Cal?
Skiing?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was not. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this leads me kind of back to I'll come back to training, but swimming has been such a huge part of your life, right? And
Mhm.
I don't necessarily know if you're outside of kind of like the swimming circle, if you're not coaching swimming, maybe if you're not like a parent of a swimmer, if you're not the actual swimmer, I, I don't know. It's not as common as basketball or football, right? In our like mainstream conversations, right? Um,
Yep.
And so I know I'm biased because I know what I know how complex it is, and I'm so happy that you mentioned the 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 alone time that you have in swimming.
Hmm.
It's strange. I mean, it's a really strange place to be. Like, I was out. I make sure I get out similar to you and just try to get in the water, which again is nice and warm here in Jamaica, and it's beautiful, and
I need that.
and you can see clearly through the water as opposed to our lovely water out in the Bay Area in certain areas where you're like, I don't know what's going on down there, but something's happening. Um, but it, like I got out there today and like I was like, yeah, let me get in. I just wanted to get in a quick kind of like some short hard swims, just like
Hmm.
15 seconds of all out. And I did one. I was like, yep, nope, not today. Nope, not happening today. That's not it. Like the water is moving today too, right? So like even in 15 seconds, there's a 5 foot swell, and I'm saying, oh
Yeah.
God, like all right, but there is it's so interesting when that happens, and I try to explain this to people when open water swimming. There's this strange connection that you have with the water, and it's like you're getting feedback, and then you're interpreting the feedback from the water, and then you're having to like kind of work through that in terms of your stroke and your breathing, and how is that affecting your thoughts. A friend of mine asked me like, how do you know when you're like using too much energy? And I was like, oh, that's a great question, because you think about running, right? You have a
Mhm.
watch, right? You're like, oh, okay, like I kind of know my pace. This is normal. And I was like, well, I think it's a lot about feeling. It's a lot about like, does it feel good? Do you think in your preparation? I'm assuming that you go through those questions constantly, and whoever you're training with is like, oh, okay, like where are you at with this? Like, how do you feel? Um, I was going all over the place there for a second, but yeah, like talk about that connection that you normally would have, because it's when you said that connection and being able to remove yourself from kind of like all the tough shit throughout the day. Yeah, you're connecting to a different entity in my mind, like when you're out in
Mhm.
open water. So yeah, talk about that relationship that you developed, that you're, I guess, concentrating. Yeah, you're concentrating on that relationship and like putting the other relationships in your life away.
Yeah. I love that question. I think something good to like bring up is while I've been a swimmer my whole life, I've also been very like intimate with the ocean my whole life, and that
Mm,
we grew up sailing on the bay, and we had our boat all over the Pacific Ocean. So for me, swimming really took off when I was 9, but we had a sailboat, and so I spent all this time in the ocean.
mm,
So for me, the ocean was always like my happy place. It was always, you know, like I said, it kind of made things better.
yeah.
Swimming does that, but the ocean as well. So for me, when I train, I I always say that when you're swimming open water, you have to swim with what the water's giving you.
Hmm.
And I mean that by like when you're in a pool, you're in a box and it's always going to be the same and you have the same stroke and you can keep your pace. That's how you check yourself. In the ocean, you've got tides, currents, winds, waves. When it's flat like a lake, sure, I can swim like I'm in the pool and I can kind of know my effort and my speed. But when it's 12 knots of wind and the currents against me, my watch isn't giving me any information that I need to know. And my stroke also has to change to adapt with the ocean because
Sure,
I don't want to fight the ocean. I'm never going to win that battle.
sure.
So I need to swim how that is. And that could mean shorter strokes or faster strokes or swimming longer, more kick. So I definitely adapt myself to what my environment is.
Mm,
And my effort, I I kind of know, like, based on in the bay, the water's cold. So if I get out of a swim and I'm hot, that means I've worked really hard. And
Yeah.
I can kind of, I mean, at this point, I've been swimming for, I don't know, 20 years. I kind of
Yeah.
I know what my efforts are and I know how hard I'm trying. So for me, I think knowing your effort is just an experience thing
Yeah.
and trial and error. But I do personify the ocean. When the thoughts start coming, or I'm there for 4 hours, or if I feel like there's some animal underneath me, I kind of talk to the ocean. Like, I'm
Yep.
like, hey there, like, I know I'm freaking out a little bit, but like, can you just watch out for me? And it's kind of silly, but when you're in your own head, it's nice to talk to someone, even though it's imaginary and it's also in your own head. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I treat the ocean. Like, I definitely personify her, and I try to swim with what it's giving me and not fight against it. Because fighting against it, you're never going to win. But if I can kind of, like, I don't know, just push against the current a little bit,
Yeah.
then it works.
So I had that moment, setting goals, doing the bridge to bridge, and I'm not
Nice.
a distance person at all, but it was, it was a challenge. I was like, okay, like I tried Alcatraz, and I was like, Alcatraz was cool, but I was like, that was really quick. I was like, I was just like
Yeah.
I was like a heartbeat, like, oh, I'm done. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, 6 miles. All right, so 6 miles, there's no, it's not, there's no like, oh, I'm done. It's like, no, you're gonna be out here for a little while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I I've never had that type of conversation with the ocean before. I never was like talking, like, parts of it, the beginning, like, legit was like, help me out, just help me out. I'll listen. Just let me know how you're feeling and I'll work with you. And then later on in the swim, I was like, okay, I need some help. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I need some help. Like, please just help me out here. That was my first experience in a distance swim. And, for sure, did I train as best as I could? No, that's always relative. Well, yeah, it's always subjective too. But yeah, I was like, okay, my calves are cramping up. I was like, my shoulder is starting to get a little sore here. Okay, I need some help here. Like, come on, come on, come on. So that I'm happy again, very happy to hear someone affirming that story that you're having with the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you I'm interested. So what was your event? So were you a distance swimmer in college as well?
Kind of.
Okay.
I was recruited to Cal for the like 200 and 500.
Okay.
And then as I started swimming there, we had our Missy Franklins and our Liz Peltons and like amazing swimmers like come up underneath me. And of course, they're breaking American records in
Yeah.
those events. So
Yeah.
I got pushed up to the 1,000 in the mile. Because you're on a team, you got to do what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And I would not say I enjoyed it. I don't know. The mile in the pool wasn't my thing. I also did a 5K open water in club swimming, and I got out, and I don't know. I think I was like 13, so I threw a temper tantrum at my mom, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. That was the worst thing ever. No, yeah. But when I graduated, I still liked the water, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful to my coach for that. I know a lot of people leave their college sports and they're burnt out. So I still liked the water, and that's when I joined the dolphin club. And I mean, doing those swims in the bay, you do them all with the current. So you're swimming like 50 seconds per 100.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
oh, this is great. I'm on a conveyor belt. Yeah, and that's that. And then people were like, you should do the English Channel. And that's kind of like how my journey started. But yeah, no, I was not a distance swimmer. Never, ever, ever thought I'd be doing this now.
So when did it click Is there a moment it clicked? Was there a series of moments where you said, all right, I like this? Was it yeah? And what did you like about it? Was it the challenge part? Because I think
Yeah.
you mentioned this earlier before, and I work with student athletes now, and trying to, you know, bridge the gap between the challenges that you navigate in, in your sport, to the challenges that you're going to navigate in, life outside of sport.
Hmm.
And that's difficult. That's difficult because I've seen student athletes who actually seek out challenges. They're like, no, 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 I want more. I want more. I'm addicted to the challenge. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whew, okay. So, not to say there's going to be a shortage of challenges, but I don't know if it's necessarily healthy to approach everything in life with that mindset. Right. And it's not for me to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just saying, if you're going out into normal life and you're seeking them out, oh, maybe that could be problematic. So, but when did you, how did you recognize that this was going to be your thing?
I'm laughing because the student athlete, that us seeking out challenges. I think I was just talking to a friend at coffee about this morning. And for me, like when I'm going through emotional or mental things, the way I process it is I go work so hard that all I can feel is like the pain of running up a hill,
Mhm.
and I focus on the physical stress. And I'm like, cool, I can this is tangible for me. I can process why this hurts. Great.
Yeah.
Um, so I think athletes oftentimes we process our emotional things by going and seeking out those challenges
Yeah.
physically because it's like really easy to, be like, this is why this is hard.
Yeah.
Whereas emotional, mental things sometimes it's harder to place. So I'm just laughing because I'm like, it is such an athlete thing to
Oh yeah.
seek out harder things. Yeah. But when did it click for me? I think when enough people started coming up to me and they're like, you're not getting cold in this water and you're fast. Like,
Hmm.
you really should try this. And so I didn't want to do the English Channel first. So I committed to doing the length of Lake Tahoe as my
Yeah.
first swim.
Yep.
So that's also 21 miles. And in that one, I trained harder for that one than I have for anything, I think. I was up at 4:45 in the morning, driving to the bay, swimming for an hour, going to work, doing CrossFit at lunch, swimming in the pool after work. And I
Mm.
was doing that all by myself because I didn't have
Mm.
the community I have now.
Mm.
So in that moment where I think that's where it clicked that okay, like I can do this.
Yeah.
And then when it clicked that I love it was in Tahoe at around like 4 hours in, I just was like in this flow state.
Hmm.
Whereas like it was really special and I broke that record by like 30 minutes. And it was a record that people were like, there's no way you're going to break it. The guy that has it is really talented and he is, I don't think he swims that much anymore, but this was my first marathon swim and I got the overall record by, 25 whatever minutes. And that's when I was like, oh, this is fun. you know. But I think what it was is like the last maybe the last 2 hours, I I went from swimming a 2.5 mile an hour pace to 2.6 and 2.7 miles an hour. So after swimming for 6 hours or 7 hours, I had another gear.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's when it was just like, let's go.
Sure.
So I do enjoy tapping into that.
Hmm.
I think it's a cool thing to explore as a human is how much do you actually have? And I think a lot of people sell themselves short.
Sure.
So this the swimming, it's cool to really push myself. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so you mentioned that. I mean, you mentioned doing all this training by yourself for that.
Mhm.
Um, how? I mean, looking back, right? You set a goal and you wanted to accomplish that goal, and you knocked the goal out of the fucking park. So, job well done. But I'm assuming you also recognize, like, I don't want to do this by myself. Like, doing this by
No,
like, this is not. Yeah.
no.
So what?
I had some mentors at the time. So I
Okay.
had like, I call them the marathon greats. And
Hmm.
I had a lot of mentors like helping coach me. And then I started swimming with some people as I could, but like my speed is just so much different than others. So it makes it hard to have training partners.
Yeah.
So Tahoe was a lot of solo training, but after that, I started meeting more people in the community. And for my other swims, I had kayakers with me, or some people would come swim for an hour with
Yeah.
me, and I'd do 3 by myself. So now I would say that I don't really train by myself unless I
Okay.
want to.
Sure.
I can find people. And for Tahoe, I was training out of fear. I was training out of
Mm.
the fear I can't swim this long. And now that I've done a few of them, I
Yeah.
think I'm a little more relaxed in my training.
Okay.
But yeah, and so yeah, I don't know. The community is really supportive. You just have to go find it. But there's times for training by yourself, and there's times for having people with you.
Sure. So how does
Yeah.
that? Yeah. So now, when you're not training, do you find yourself in more time when you're like, yeah, I just kind of want to be to myself? Like, is that you, or are you like the social butterfly? Like, oh no, I want to be around everybody. Like, I'm by myself.
Yeah, I think I used to be like very much an extrovert,
Okay.
like loving to be around other people all the time. And I don't know if it's a COVID thing or what, but now
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm tired at the end of the days. I'm old. That's what it is. I'm getting old. um, but no, I do love, I think, yeah, I like in the pool, I love having other people with me. Because I think that's just, it's nice to like have training partners in the pool. But open water stuff, I think if it is a very social event, yeah, I need to go like be by myself and recharge, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are great, but it's also taxing. It's extremely
Yeah.
taxing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how does your family deal with all this? Like, do they ever get? Do they? I mean, they know you're a swimmer, right? So they know, they're like, okay,
Mhm.
this is Catherine. Do they call you Catherine? Do they call you something else?
Catherine. Yeah, I think my
Catherine.
friends call me Kat, and my family calls me Catherine. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they're like, we know Catherine. We know. Do they ever get worried or scared? They ever share that with you, or they're just like, man, I know your family sailed, right? So it's got to be like, all
Mhm.
right, Catherine.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel a little bit like the black sheep in my family, and like the odd one out, because my family's very like, they're artistic and creative, and like they've been doing watercolor lessons since
Okay.
quarantine started. So I've been kind of like trying to do that with them, and I'm really bad.
Okay.
And they cook all the time, and I'm also terrible at cooking. um, but so it's like, for me, what I do, like they look at me and they're like, you're insane. But with that said, they love me deeply and dearly and support it.
Okay.
So my mom, there's obviously always a little bit of fear around these swims,
Sure.
especially the ones in the bay and off the coast of California, just purely for the great white sharks.
Sharks. Yeah.
But I think the other ones, I'm not going to die.
Right. 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 Right.
Really,
Right.
like
Right.
I'm not going to die doing one of these. But I think they support me. They want me to do well. My grandma actually came with me to Ireland when I did the North
Hmm.
Channel.
Okay.
Yeah, so she has some Irish blood in her too. So her and I spent 10 days together in Northern Ireland waiting for my swim. She wasn't on the boat,
Okay.
but she was there, and it was such a special experience to like be able to share like my like a piece of my life with her in that
Mm-hmm.
way. And she got to meet my crew, and she got to meet the swim community there, and she got to like watch me when I did my warm-up swims. And
No.
she actually got in the water too, and it was like 51 degrees, and she's like,
Woo!
it's too cold. And then my mom, I invited her to my Monterey Bay swim. So she was on the boat for that swim. She was not in charge of me. I didn't want to stress her out. So I put her in charge of helping my paddler,
Okay.
like helping him with his feeds and stuff.
Yeah.
And I heard she did amazing. I mean, she ended up wearing everyone's hat. She stayed awake the whole time. And, you know, for her, I think the nerves come from she wants her baby to do well and to be happy and succeed. But that's what she cares about. You know, my mom, she was a great swim mom in that she never like pushed me to swim. She just supported me and my love for it. And if I wanted to quit, she'd like, that's your choice, you know? But she never like knew times, which I thought was really funny. She would only know if I did well at the end of the swim if I had a smile on my face. Yeah. So she had like she kind of knows, but she has no idea.
Yeah,
you know, she didn't know what like a good 500 time was. She was just like, I don't know, is she smiling or not? So yeah, so there's definitely fear. There's some swims they don't want me to do, but I'll probably do them. And they're great.
I'm glad your mom was that kind of parent because you know, we know the other parents that are involved, which teeter on the line of another coach, right?
Yeah.
And how that can complicate a child, not just swimming, but just complicate things for a child, right? Like when you're like,
oh my god, my dad was that. So my dad, it was he's not in my life anymore, but having him, it was tough, you know, having him on the deck, knowing the times, knowing what kids I had to beat, or if I didn't swim fast enough, he'd leave the meet and things like that, where it's like, this isn't your sport. Like, your job is to be here supporting me and loving me and my successes and failures. And I think sometimes parents get a little too wrapped up in that. So I've coached summer league. I still coach swimmers, and I actually coach some little kids right now. And one of the girls, she likes the water and she likes dance. She does not like swimming, you know? So I've encouraged her mom to be like, why don't you sign her up for synchro?
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have to push your kids into what you want them to do.
Sure.
So yeah, the parenting thing can get tough.
Now, was he a former swimmer or athlete or anything like that?
Kind of a former swimmer.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't swim in college. Yeah. But he like knew the sport a little bit more.
I mean, in my time of coaching, you know, it's I have had, again, in my own experience, I've seen the parent who maybe necessarily didn't make it as far as they wanted to in sport, who are a little bit more proactive, right?
Yes.
Again, in my own experience, I'm not saying this is everyone's, but the parents who, you know, had made it, you know, swim in college, you know, they knew it and they were just like, you know, this is theirs. Like, I'm not, you know, I might give them, if they ask me for feedback, then sure, I'll give it to them. But I'm not here to create any complications, because I think most swimmers know what that's like when you're trying to like essentially appease a parent and a coach, right? Like, you want to have a great relationship with your coach. You want to have a great relationship with your parents, but you know, even reminds me, I mean, all of those relationships are very parental, right? If you can go back and think about, you know,
oh my god, I love my coach. I mean, he's gonna be like either not walking me down the aisle or he's gonna be at my wedding, you know, like he was totally a father figure.
Sure. Yeah. So how did you decide that he was gonna be the coach, right? Like, how do you decide who's gonna be in your training circle?
Well, yeah, so Steve Morsilli was my year-round coach, so I didn't have a lot of say in that. You know, he's just who I moved up into, and I'm so grateful for him. He's an incredible coach. And then for Cal, the other schools I was interviewing had coaches that were kind of, and I don't know, there was something about Terry McKeever and Cal that just the different in the new, and I was drawn into that. And yeah, I mean, my college and swimming career did not go the way I expected it to or wanted it to go. But by being coached by her, I left the sport still loving it.
Mm.
And she really emphasized us being strong women first and athletes second. So
Mm.
I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I didn't make it to the Olympics. I didn't do exactly what I thought I'd do in the pool, but I left that program loving the water and being a strong woman. And that is going to carry me till the day I die. So I'm like, that's, and I had graduated from Cal, so there's some choices.
Let's
There's
not
some
sweep
choices
that
you
one to
make.
the table.
Right. And so I think, you pick your coach for different reasons. And I think for Terry, we have some similarities, and I saw her as this person that was going to change my life for the better. And I don't think I knew exactly how in the moment. I thought Olympics in the moment, but looking back on it, it's like maybe it was something bigger.
Yeah, coach. I mean, I just think about the relationships that I've noticed more and more with student athletes, how heavily they rely on coaches for advice, and not not just life advice in the sport, life advice. Like, where do I go?
Yes.
Where do I go after this? Like, what should I do? And and I think that can create a lot of pressure on coaches. One of the things that I'm working on right now is working with student athletes and trying to create programming that alleviates some of that pressure. I'm a firm believer in having like strong foundational relationships. I'm also a big believer in like diversifying your relationships, like expanding.
Yes.
Um, I do think that it's okay to, you do want to trust people and you want to rely on them when when you need them. But it's also important to like get to know other people and see how they can help you out, especially with student athletes, right? I mean, I think one of the challenges I see is that just being so regimented while you're in college that there I maybe the only other thing I could think about that comes close is like someone who's in like ROTC, right? They're in this very regimented program. Like, you are going to take these classes, and then after you take those classes, then you're going to go to PT, and then after PT, but um, but I also don't want to equate the military to uh, college sports. Like, there are some differences. Okay, like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But there are overlaps of the discipline, the training, being resilient.
Yeah.
Different ways, but there's some overlap.
Definitely some overlap. So yeah, it's I think that could be a hard transition when you're so accustomed to routine and schedule, and there's I need to go see the trainer, and then I need to have a meeting with my coach, and then I need to have some type of team building exercise, and then there's a tutor I need to go see, and then there's if you're let's say you are seeing a sports psychologist or a performance coach. Okay, well, those aren't necessarily going to be there when you leave sport. But how do you identify? Those are always my questions. Like, how do you identify who you want in your life? Who's the team that you want around you when you enter into the world? I still struggle with that now. You know what I mean? But, this was something that I think student athletes actually, they might have an upper hand because they already recognize, like, oh, I do remember how important, it was to talk to a tutor or a sports psychologist or a therapist, whatever it may be. You've lived that experience already. So was transitioning out of sport difficult in that sense for you? Like, were you so regimented that when you got into the world, like maybe stepped out into to the world outside of sport, college sport, because you were always involved, right?
Yeah.
Always just never stopped swimming, but yeah, maybe less structure. You needed to create your own.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing about college sports and like that structure you're talking about is you don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're a college athlete, it is given to you. This is what you're doing, and you just do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and as an adult, when you don't have that structure of college and athletics, you have to spend the extra energy creating your structure, creating your plan. It's not just handed to you.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a choice in college. I had my classes, I had my athletics, I had the rehab I had to do. So I didn't think about it. I just like
Sure.
just did it, and now as an adult, it's like you need to do rehab. You need to have a therapist. I think everyone should, and
Mm-hmm.
like I stopped seeing mine because I was like, oh, I don't want to like talk on the phone with them, but it's
Yeah.
like I need to force that in, or
Mm-hmm.
eating healthy, going to bed early. Like when you're not an athlete, when you're not a kid, you have freedom. And I think something the swims helped me with is like I do create schedules, and I do create that like a regimen that I follow for the most part. I always say to not negotiate with yourself. So I think what that means as an adult, like is, a working adult that's making their own schedule, setting their own goals, it's really easy to just be like, oh, I don't feel it today, or oh, work was hard today, I can't train, or oh, I'm going to just swim half of what I said I was going to. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, you set this goal for yourself, you have to do it. But yeah, in terms of like building your team, I think athletes, they do know what they want on their team. They do know the characteristics, the people they want. And I call it like being in your front row. Like I have a front row. They're the people where if my life is a theater, I'm on stage, my front row, they're the people I see and I want there. And then, yeah, people are going to filter in and out of the audience. They're going to come into the second row, maybe be there for a little bit, maybe leave. There people standing in the back. And you can't really choose who's going to come to the show of your life, but you do get to choose who's in those first two rows. With that said, though, I think athletes can be too independent sometimes. And I say that like about myself, when I'm having a hard time, I will withdraw and just be by myself, because it's really
Okay.
easy for me to be in a bad place or sad or depressed, whatever, alone. I don't want to put that on other people. So I'm learning now that those are the moments where I need to reach out to my front row and just be like, hey, I'm struggling, I
Yeah.
need you here. Rather than only being around people and hanging out with people when I'm in a good mood and everything's perfect. Because yeah, I think athletes are good at putting up this facade of like, I'm tough and everything's great. And it's not just an athlete thing, it's a human thing,
Sure.
but I think we're really conditioned to like kind of put it on the back burner and focus on your performance.
Yeah.
Shut it off. So yeah, I think who's in your front row is important. You need people you can be vulnerable and open with and have the like raw and like emotions with.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
how's that changed? If you can think about how's that changed over time by you know, who's in your front row? Like, is it have people stayed in your front row for the most part, or has that changed within the I don't know quarantine, COVID, is after college?
Yeah, I think the main thing is like I've become more comfortable with being vulnerable to my front row.
Mm,
Um, I've been more comfortable with showing them like, it's like Instagram versus reality. Everyone sees something on
Ooh.
Instagram and they're like, oh my gosh, your life looks so amazing. You look so happy. You look great, and this and that. And it's like, that's not always the reality of what's going on behind the scenes.
Sure.
So for me, it's been like being open to my front row. But I've actually have a lot of friends that I've had. I have a couple I've had since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
high school friends I still talk to. My sister and my mom and I are so close.
Okay.
My grandma and I are close. So yeah, I've got like a lot of really good core friends that are in my front row. And it's funny, like sport and swimming is kind of what ties us all together.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's how it's changed. So yeah,
Yeah.
and also just not being afraid to like move people back a few rows if they're toxic or not giving you what you need. And it's no hard feelings. Like what might be not beneficial for you could be beneficial for someone else. And
Sure.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've been moved back in people's rows too. and, that's, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's it- similarly, you mentioned support, and throughout this master's program, there's been an emphasis. Not that, yeah, there has been an emphasis on my male relationships, and how supportive they are, and I've spent some time looking at how supportive they are, and if they are not, then I'm getting to be more comfortable with stepping away. And
Hmm.
not to say there's a standard of like support. Everybody shows their support differently. Um, and so, yeah, I don't necessarily approach it that way, but that's one of the things that I thought was important to me, right? I was like, I think guys tend to have an easier time just having like yeah, we're cool, we hang out, so we're friends, and we don't ask, maybe not necessarily ask the deeper questions of how is this person supporting me, in my
Yeah.
life, or supporting what I want to do in my life.
And
And
support looks different too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think,
exactly.
yeah. And I think like it's important to know that one person, a lot of times it becomes like your partner has to support you in every single way you want to be supported. And it's like
Sure.
your partner can't be every single thing for you. Like
No.
they're going to support you how they support you. And then the other ways that you need to be supported, like you can find that in other relationships. And that goes back to being the college athlete. Like you've got your coach who's might be kind of like a hard ass on you, give
Mhm.
you some tough love. You've got the trainer who's going to be there, listen to you, heal your body. You've got your sports therapist who's going to work on your mind, maybe be more gentle and encouraging. And
Mhm.
it's like you need different people to give you different types of support and show you different ways that you can approach problems or feel supported, because it can't always be like hugs and kisses, unicorns and butterflies.
Wow.
Sometimes you need some like tough love of like, you need to get your shit together
Yeah.
and go for your swim now.
Yep.
And then, you
We can
know,
talk after we can
yeah,
be a little bit more soft, but right now, yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
go.
yeah, it's like it reminds me of like um, I've seen it on like different feeds where everybody's been that kid. Well, not everyone. There's some kids who didn't care, but for the most part, it's like when you were a kid and you're looking at the pool and you're like, man, water's cold. Like, whew, you're doing the dance before you get in, and you're like, yeah. And as the coach, you're like, get in the water. Like, I need you to
Yeah.
get in the water now. Like, yes, it might be cold for a second, but yes, I can
Mhm.
be nice after this. But right now, I need
Yeah.
to like get on it. Who modeled vulnerability for you? Because you said you're becoming more working on becoming more vulnerable with those front row folks, right? So
Yeah.
you know, uh, yeah, where did you see it? Where did you see like, yeah, that's kind of where it's kind of I like the way they're
Yeah.
vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like, they seem vulnerability looks good on them. All right, maybe I'll try it out too.
Yeah, I think it was like, I read a lot of like, I don't call them self-help books. I call them like self-enhancement books. But there's like Brene Brown, or
Mhm.
reading like Shonda Rhimes books, or like Glennon Doyle. Like there's a lot of books out there where these women who are doing amazing things speak about being open and honest and like saying yes to being vulnerable. And I think it was knowing that, it's exhausting going through life trying to put on a face and be the tough person all the time. I think there was also part of it was like I've had my Instagram, I started being more and more open and vulnerable with that and with the
Hmm.
blog that I have. And I don't blog that much, but I write when I want to. And in those moments, I would get so many people reaching out to me like,
Mhm.
thank you for saying this, or I feel the same way, or I'm here for you if you need it. And these are people I don't even know. And it was the positive reinforcement of being vulnerable that I was like, this is an okay thing to
Mhm.
be. And it's yeah, and just, my mom said something, I don't think she'd ever remember this, but she was like, I used to only go to her when things were bad. And she was just like, Catherine, you need to like, I want you to have close girlfriends that you can talk about these things with, because I'm not always going to be here.
Sure.
And it was kind of like, I replay that a lot because I'm like, yeah, she's right. Like I'm not going to have my mom to call when I'm upset or something went wrong or I have a big decision to make in life. And it's like I started going to my friends more and more with those things, and just really valuing their advice. And I was like, okay, like it's okay to be vulnerable, because I love when my friends are vulnerable to me. Like I love when I can support them and be there for them and care for them. And it was like, why, if I love being there for them so much because I love this person, why would it not be like that if the roles were switched?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think we all kind of go through these experiences of like, questioning all, every aspect of vulnerability. Like, am I being vulnerable? Am I being too vulnerable?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it too much? Should I calm down a little bit?
Is that too much?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it like we can build up this fear. You know what I mean? Like I've sat with that before. Like sitting in that moment where you want to be vulnerable. Maybe it's about sharing an experience with someone else or like how you feel. It could be as simple as like, man, I'm really upset. Like I'm really upset by something that a friend, not even a friend. It could be someone who doesn't even know you. They said something, and you're like, man, that upset me. Like I'm hurt. Like I'm really hurt by them. I don't even know them, but it hurts my feelings what they said about me. And I think that admitting that. I'm still trying to understand more about what is it that we're so scared of. Like, what is it the accepted? Like, are people not going to accept us if we acknowledge, like, yeah, that hurt my feelings? Or what does that say about me? Specifically, we're talking about, maybe this is more pressure as an athlete. Like, well, does that mean I'm not strong? Does that mean I'm not like fit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think what you said is right. I think people they don't want to come off as like weak or insecure by being vulnerable. And I think that, generations, current time, that conversation's changing a little bit. Maybe in our parents' generation, it was more like, if you have mental health, then you're weak. And now it's like, no, you're strong for talking about it.
Sure.
So I'm glad that that's changing. But yeah, I mean, even in my swims, like, I'll go through these moments where I'm cold or I'm hungry or I'm really tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just kind of voice that to my crew. I'll just like, I'm cold, and that's it. I don't need to say anything else. I don't need anything from them, but I just like want them to know. And I think in the beginning of my swimming, I used to like keep that stuff more inside of me a little bit more. And I'd like struggle through it for the 10-hour swim. And now I'm like, no, I should just tell my crew that I'm cold or I'm hungry. And just like them knowing is just comforting.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I mean, maybe it's complaining, but I'm not trying to complain. I'm just like, hey guys, like I'm kind of hungry,
kind of. I'm
kind of thinking about that beer I can have at the end of the swim.
So yeah, what do you? Okay, yeah, I want to. I know we don't have too much more time here because I know you got to run, but that's one of the things I wanted to discuss with you about the nutrition, like on a marathon swim. So, like, what is that? Do you work with a nutritionist? Do you work with like a dietitian? Or is it just like, man, I'm going to swim, and once this thing is over, I'm going to eat. It is on.
No, yeah, I actually, like in the world of marathon sports, there's some products that people pretty much swear by. And it
Okay.
used to be Honey Stinger. It's like a little gel packet. I'd have,
Hmm.
a couple of those every hour. Now I use this product called Infinite, and it's a
Okay.
custom made blend of certain amount of calories, carbs, protein, amino acids, and caffeine.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I have that in water, and I just chug that down every 30 minutes as fast as I can and keep going. I know a lot of swimmers will have a treat like a Snickers bar or something that is yummy for
Yeah.
them. For me, I'm like, I don't need it. So I forgo the treat. I'm like, it's going to take an extra minute to eat this. So I save the treats for after. But yeah, it's pretty much just like liquid.
Yeah. Did you ever struggle with any type of like eating? Like, that's a big thing with the performance, right? Like what you're putting in your body and
Yeah.
specifically with like life after. Now you've had the
Mhm.
um you've continued in it from what it sounds like you've managed it. But did you ever struggle with eating and body image or anything like that in
Yes. I don't know. I like find me one female swimmer or male swimmer who didn't struggle with that, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, I did. I always like carried a little bit more weight than I think I wanted to.
Okay.
When my after Olympic trials had some like pretty traumatic family things happen, and I ended up losing like 20 pounds in 2 months off of a body that was ready to perform really well at Olympic
Ah.
trials. So that was like a weird time, but I was like, damn, I look good, So that's like,
Yeah.
that's where it like goes in your mind. I think I'm at a point now where I'm 28. My body is what it's going to be.
Oh,
Really. I mean, the only way it's going to change is if I quit swimming and if I quit surfing, because I'm
hmm.
like, I want my back to be smaller and my arms to be smaller, but I'm not going to quit these sports because
Oh,
they give me too much joy.
sure.
Um, with the North Channel, I did put on from where I am now, probably it was like 25 pounds. Um,
Yeah, you got to put
but that's
some
because
muscle on.
I put some muscle and I put some fat on,
Fat
knowing
on,
that it's
yeah.
50, 51, 52-degree water.
Yeah.
But I view, my body as a tool, and I want it to perform for its purpose. And its purpose for that was the North Channel. And to get through that, I knew that's how I had to look. As a 26-year-old with 30 extra pounds, yeah, no, that didn't feel great.
Mhm.
Did not like looking at myself in a bathing suit. I still struggle looking at myself in a bathing suit. I don't like pictures. I just did a photo shoot with Speedo, and the whole time I'm like, oh gosh, like trying to fix everything and like hide everything and like squish the fat in. But
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I can't, I don't, my body does what I want it to do. So
Sure.
I need to learn to love it. But I think that's a work in progress.
I mean, it's
So,
important. Yeah, it's important. I think it's important for everyone to understand kind of like, even people, and I think people would probably identify you as a pretty fit person. You know what I mean? I mean, those are still real struggles, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And a much larger issue about how we view ourselves and like
right.
who are we comparing ourselves to and
That it's the who you compare yourself to.
uh,
It's funny, like I recently got into big wave surfing.
okay.
And I'll look at the women that are featured on like the Roxy and the O'Neill posters and Billabong, and it's like these very small, extremely fit, tan, beautiful women, like with their tiny little bathing suits. And I'm like, I'm never going to look like that. And then I look at the women who are actually doing big wave surfing, and it's like they are strong and muscular and fit. And like, we're wearing wetsuits with hoods covering our face. There's no pretty blonde hair flowing in the
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
big wave
yeah.
surfing. And it's like, okay, like this is who I need to be looking at, not these other images. And it just gets so thrown in our face nowadays. Like,
Yeah,
this is what an athlete looks like, and I'm like, yeah, sure, like maybe for something, but that's not what an athlete in my sport looks like.
sure.
Um, and just knowing there's different body types and we can all do amazing things. Uh, Yeah. Eat healthy, get your sleep, listen to your body. And I don't know, however you look is how you're going to look.
Yeah, no, I think there's always, like
Yeah,
it all depends. I mean, people are built differently,
exactly. Yeah.
um, and yes, there is. I think there's some truth to seeing someone who has put that work in, and
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with appreciating that, right? Like you're like,
No,
oh, like when
no.
you see, you're like, damn, like
Yes.
that
You look
is,
good.
you
Yeah.
look good, like that is impressive.
Yeah.
I think I think maybe we get a little maybe we get a little salty when we see people and they're like naturally built. Like you ever see a person
Sure.
you're like, I mean, you
I,
put work
yeah.
in, but like that's you.
Yeah. 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 But I
Yeah,
think, it's like appreciating it instead of comparing yourself to it. Like
absolutely.
you are not less
Sure.
because you don't look like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think people struggle with, or I
Oh,
do. I
yeah.
don't know. Whatever.
It's a tough one. I mean, we're all at the end of the day, we're all right. We're all pretty much in our own head, right? Like
Yeah.
you walk out and you're showing, you walk out into the water, and obviously you want to look good. Um, but you going out into the world, like someone might always have a problem. Like nothing's gonna change, right? Like let's say somebody does have a problem with the way you look, but there's someone else who might really love the way you look.
Yeah. Yeah.
You like the way you look, or maybe you don't. But you're like, those are all thoughts going
Hmm.
through when you're just trying to live. Like that's the
Yeah,
part that's like, damn, you just trying to walk outside, go to the water, or hang
I
out. Like,
know.
yeah,
Yeah. And
okay.
it's just learning to love the parts of your body that allow you to do what you want them to do. Like I don't love that I have a huge back and shoulders, but I love that my back and shoulders can enable me to swim for 13 hours and break records in the ocean. Like that's pretty freaking cool. So it's like it's learning how to appreciate, you know, the things that you've built for yourself.
So what's next? How does somebody like yourself set all these huge goals, right?
Yeah.
And kind of have to sit for a second during COVID, and I think yeah, you've gotten back in the water. I was checking out your Instagram, so I see you gotten back in the water. You started. Um, I liked how you got back in, and you're already starting to do some drill work and looking at your body. And
Yeah.
like, oh damn! I was like, yeah, homegirl is gotten back into it.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I did get back into it and then I've kind of like withdrawn a little bit
No,
from it. I was going to do a swim this year. I was going to do the Molokai channel, so Molokai to Oahu, or the Kiwi channel, and I can't wrap my head around it right now. I feel overwhelmed at the thought of training for something without a pool and without a gym. These swims are really, really expensive.
oh yeah,
And financially, like having done that for the past 5 years, I just think it's good for me to take a little break. So I think I'm actually not going to do a swim this year.
okay.
I think I'm going to, set myself up for like a January or February next year and just kind of enjoy coaching this year and maybe do like a 12-mile swim. It's an organized event. But I think I need to get hip surgery. I'm dealing with like some neck issues, and I think it's okay to take a bye year. I'm not retiring. I'm not going to take it completely off, but I'm
Nah,
just like, you know what? I do this because I love it, and if I'm not feeling it right now, it is absolutely okay for me not to set some monster goal of swimming 28 or 30 miles. I think
yeah,
that's okay. So
yeah.
I'm trying to tell myself it's okay. I think a part of me is like, no, you have to do a swim this year. Everyone thinks you're the marathon swimmer and that's who you are. But I'm like, you know what? It's okay.
Is,
So
is there anything else that you're kind of interested in that's starting to like creep into your head? I know you sounds like you got water sports, you know, pretty much locked down. Is there something else that's kind of like scratching? Like, hey,
Yeah, to try. Well, so as skiing, I'm a big backcountry skier, so I'm gonna do Shasta this year. So we
good.
like climb up it with our ski stuff and then ski down it. Um, and my friend and I want to do a swim run in Catalina. I did
Okay.
it a couple years ago and really enjoyed that. So those are kind of some like fun little like goals that I have, but need to play those by ear with like what my hip's doing. I kind of want to get a coach for big wave surfing. I think being ready for next season would be really cool.
Okay.
I jumped into this sport, not really knowing that much about it, just
Mm,
knowing I could hold my breath for a long time and swim hard.
yeah.
So now I'm trying to learn more about like how do you navigate a 20 or 30-foot wave, or how do I get prepared for that? And I think it'd be smart to have a coach. So I don't know, those are kind of like some fun things I'm thinking about,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know, focusing on work. Like I do have a job. I think it'd be good to like to to focus on work a little bit.
So how do you? Okay,
I
so
hope my boss doesn't listen to this.
no, but this is good. So like, I have a job, so
I have a job.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you go from big wave surfing? How do you go from
Yeah.
26-mile swims? How do you go for training this? And then you're like, all right,
Go to work.
I'm gonna go to work now.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm in medical device sales, and I
Yeah.
think like a lot of my accounts really appreciate me and I work with them and I'm consultants. And then there's other accounts and they're just like, oh, can this salesperson please get out of our face?
Yeah.
And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, wait, I'm kind of a cool person though. But I'm like, yeah, it's kind of funny being a sales rep. They just view me in like one light. I don't know. I think it's like you just put on a different hat. I go to work, get my job done. I'm lucky in that my company and my boss understand and fully support the swimming.
Yep.
They are totally behind me. And I'm fortunate to have a pretty flexible schedule. I make my
Sure.
own schedule. I get my job done so I can have a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got lucky with
Yeah.
this role. Yeah.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, it is funny going into an account after like I had a great white encounter and then like during a training swim and
Hey,
was
what?
just like, yeah, it came within like it was a juvenile great white. We were swimming down in Santa Cruz and he came up to my paddler probably like 3 feet away from me. I look over, he's like, cat. I look over and I see a dorsal and tail fin and I'm like, so I start swimming as fast as I can, and then I'm like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "Get to shore." And I was like, my watch, like my heart rate spiked, my stroke rate spiked. Like, yeah, it was scary. And then I like took a shower and went to work. Not. It's just like it's weird to like have those experiences in the morning or like going and surfing like a 15-foot wave and getting my butt like ass handed to me, on those waves and then going to work. But I don't know. That's just what I do.
I've yet. I mean, your mind goes somewhere else when you're out in the water, right? You're like, man,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just I swam next to some dolphins, some friendly ass fucking dolphins the other day. And I was like, the fisherman was like, man, they love you, man. It's like, I don't even want to do a Jamaican accent because it would be terrible. But I was like, damn, it was like cool. I just went like I went somewhere else when you were telling me. I'm like, wait, if I had saw a fucking great white, and they're out here, but they're further out.
It's it's their home.
Yeah,
We're visiting it. The chance of you getting bit is so slim.
Yeah,
like really, you're not going to get bit by a shark. Really.
Right.
So I try to shut it off. But yeah.
Yeah, when you see that fucking dorsal though, you're like, wait, okay.
Oh, when it's right next to you. Yeah, that's when I'm a little like,
Like, shit. Oh my god, I'm glad. Yeah, you hit it on the head when you like you go in and they're like, man, this customer is really problematic today. Like, yep, they're real problematic.
yeah.
Yeah, they're so problematic.
I'm
Well,
glad I still have all my limbs.
I, I was just on a Insta. Yeah, I went on my little Instagram frenzy last night, and for whatever reason, my interest was like the safari, and and I started watching like lions hunting shit, and I started looking at. I think I was just like, I'm so intrigued. I don't know. I'm just so intrigued by like the moment like one of those animals decides like I'm locked in. It's like the body language changes, like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is that? Like
Yeah.
I was just fascinated by like the look, the posture, like leading up to or maybe leading up to the attack, but like it's almost like preparation. Like you could see everything happen, you know, on externally, right? But like you can see like the brain change, like the brain went somewhere
Mhm.
else, and like the hormones probably changed, and either way, that's where I went. And so you were talking
Yeah.
shark, and like shark's chilling, and then it's like, no, I'm not chilling. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? Well, I'll keep talking your head off, and so one, I'm very grateful for you doing this, and I thought, you know, we've got some stuff we got some stuff in the works, and I'm excited to see where our efforts go. And I thought it was really important, one, that I capture your story, because not many people have the opportunity to swim thousands and thousands of miles in open water, and that's something that I thought was interesting. So I was like, let me. Not only can I get to know her, but I want to hear this story, right? Like
Mhm.
I want to hear what this is like for you. So really, really grateful for you doing this,
Mhm.
and I'm going to. Do you have what are you have socials? I know you said you had a blog and you got Instagram. Could you share those with me?
Yeah, it's Beyond the Black Line, um and underscore. And I know people ask me like, oh, what does that mean? And it's like beyond the black line of the pool. So I always say it's, open water. Like it means so much more than just going from pool to open water. It's going beyond what you're used to or beyond the confines of like regular and pushing yourself. So that's kind of where it came from. So yeah, beyond the black line underscore.
And then is that where the blog is as well? Do you have
Yeah, the blog is just
beyond the
beyondtheblackline.com.
beyond the
Yeah,
black
and my
line?
contacts are on both of them.
Okay,
I
cool.
try to respond to people.
You know you
I usually do an okay job. Okay, could be better.
so my last question, I always ask people this to end the podcast, is what is something that you're in love with or something that you love right now?
Mm, mm, mm. Something that I am in love with. Right now, I'm loving surfing. And I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but I'm loving that I am learning something new
Mhm.
and experiencing an environment that I'm comfortable with in a different way. So I'm looking at this environment from a completely different set of eyes. And it's also something I'm kind of doing a little bit by myself. So it's special to like be out there in the ocean alone and watching the dolphins and watching sunrise, and those moments I find myself with a pretty big smile on my face. But yeah, I mean, I'm in love with the ocean, and right now I am loving surfing. So I encourage everyone to get in the ocean because I think you'll fall in love with it,
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Well, I swam up to a good sized wave, and right before it smacked the shit out of me, I had a gratifying like, oh shit, like I said, oh shit out loud, and then after I was like, I kind of like that. So
Yeah.
I think I kind of I've never surfed before, but I'm getting that itch to learn.
You could also go get a boogie board and fins or like a hand plane and fins. I'm gonna get myself like a hand paddle thing and you can body surf. And that is so fun. And it's easier,
A
learning
little
to.
easier
But
than
yeah, go play in the waves, go body surf.
yeah. I think that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, you can thank me later.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again, and yeah, we'll talk sooner rather than later.
Yeah. No, this was great, Joan. I'm looking forward to our project next year.
Big stuff. Big stuff on the way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.